There's a little secret hiding in plain sight that tells you where you're filling yourself with obligation rather than checking in with what you want. It's something that I know that you already know, but this week I'd just like to draw a little highlighter circle around it so that you can spot where you're doing it to yourself. And that is the use of the word should. Should is never a truth. Should is never a fact. Should is never a circumstance. Should is always showing you where you have stories that you're telling yourself about what you should be doing and what you feel obliged to do. And this week, I would like to talk to you about just checking in with yourself where you have choices. And the reality is that you nearly always have choices. You just might not have noticed them yet. And they might be choices that you don't like the consequences of. And quite often, you will notice once you started to pay attention to this that if you don't like the consequences of the choices that are before you, you tell yourself that you don't have a choice. But when we tell ourselves we don't have choices, we always respond like caged animals. So, noticing where we have choices is going to really aid us in being able to make the kind of decisions that we want to for the things that we want in our life, rather than putting up obstacles and barriers against ourselves, telling ourselves that it shouldn't have to be this way, we shouldn't have to do this thing. When we tell ourselves that there are no other options, our bodies feel like they're in danger and they feel like they need to fight to get out. And one of the ways that I invite you to do that is to just look at some of the ways that you have internalized obligation. Where have you decided that that person can't be left on their own? Where have you internalized that you must return that phone call? Where have you absorbed the productivity culture that this has to be done on this particular time scale? We do live in a culture that has so many of these messages embedded within them, and we live in structures that ensure that lots of them have to be adhered to, or there'll be consequences. And this is the pause place that I would just like to speak to you today. Just noticing that there is a choice there is going to calm down and flatten that should a little bit to be like, oh, okay, there are some other choices that I could make here, but I don't want to. Rather than I have to, rather than I'm trapped, rather than there's no other options. The word should is a real clue that what we're doing or what we're saying we think is an obligation. And it can be really worth recognizing and pausing and trying to take a moment to notice where you've internalized voices and messages that you didn't consent to, or ones that you have consented to in the past and you no longer believe in. And there's a few very simple questions that you can use to help with this. When you notice yourself saying should, question who taught me that? Do I like it? What are the consequences of me not doing this thing? Do I like those? Do I choose this? And the one that I find really useful, if you replace should with want, what comes up for you? How different does the phrase look? How different does your day look? How different does your timetable look? Playing around with these things can give you some real clues and insights as to what's going on in your brain and the stories that you're telling yourself about the thing that you've just told yourself is an obligation. Investigating the word should is a practice in reclaiming permission and choice. It's about learning to check in with yourself. It is about reminding your body that you are someone who pays attention to the signals that it gives you. These are all key ways of building trust with yourself so it doesn't feel like you're in a constant fight. I invite you this week, every time you say the word should, to just ask yourself, do I want this? It's a very simple disruptor just to be able to take a little pause moment and maybe it is something that you want to do. But should is a real key to just stop, pause, like a little Buddhist bell. Just remind yourself to have a moment of check-in and check that you're doing things that align with your values, who you want to be, and what you want to be putting out there in the world. The lessons I teach inside Self Care School, including this one, are not about solving things or quick fixes in an instant that are going to disappear as quickly as they've arrived. It's about taking those moments to stop and notice so that you can make active, conscious choices about what you do and don't want in your life. And I find is the most reliable way to get embedded new practices and rewire your brain to be able to create new thought channels and new thought pathways towards more of the things that you want. So that the kind of thought patterns like, I want to do this, or I'm choosing to do this rather than I have to do this, are going to be more accessible to you in your daily life. And the more times we feel like we have a choice, and the more times we feel like we are choosing the thing that we're doing, the more ease there is in our days. And I wish for you to have more ease in your days. So if you would like more of that, please do come and find us at Self Care School. I would love to see you inside. I hope that's been useful, and I will see you next week.